So
we might as well broadcast.
So what's
sorry.
everybody up to? What's everybody been up to lately? I don't think I know anybody here. So.
Oh, yeah. And what was your name again?
I'm Wayne.
Wayne, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, wait a minute. You're the guy asking all the questions. Why don't you start first?
Who, me?
Yeah.
I am Wayne Spencer.
Yeah.
I am a cartoonist and print guy. Like I work in pre-press during the day, at the place called Kablam Digital Printing. We print comics,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all right. I do a couple of comics and I'm working on a few projects now. The most available of which is a 4-part so far series called ClockJumpers, which is available for free on IndyPlanet Digital think.com. So if you want to check those out, then please do. They're free. They're nothing special, but you might like them. I don't know.
Excellent. Oh, you're up. Looks like.
Me?
I think so, Scotty Clayton.
Okay, all right.
You're the big
All right.
man on the field here. I mean, picture-wise. Yeah.
Cool.
We're scared you cheats us so you're.
I hear children.
Yeah, is that? Are those real kids, or is there like a cereal commercial going on in the background somewhere?
There's no serial commercial. There's just real, actual kids in the background.
That's even better.
Okay, that's awesome.
Right.
That's awesome. It's a PG moment. It's a PG show. It's okay.
We will. No, it doesn't matter. I'm on a headset, so and this way we will test the limits of Google Voice noise cancellation.
Yes, we will. All right. I guess I'm up next. My name is Scotty Clayton. I live in Chicago, in Illinois. I come from a background of commercial art and concept art illustration for video games and pre-production design. Mm-hmm. And I've taken upon myself to self-publish my own comic series, The Legend of Monkey Ronin, which you can find in many places like Amazon Kindle Fire or Lush Comics, or you can find the first printed comic on IndyPlanet and IndyPlanet Digital from Kablam Printing.
Awesome.
There are other issues coming up. I'm working on issues 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, and I also have a graphic novel which will be 48 pages that'll come out in September, which I'm working on right now. I had started an Indiegogo campaign, and the biggest problem I ran into is I don't have a whole legion of fans, so that's fine. It is what it is, but it's a project of mine that I love the most, so I just keep trying to push it out there, spread the word, old school and new school, and it will be around for as long as I am. And if my grandfather lived to be 102, then looks like, maybe the odds are that I will be too. So I also, from time to time, it's not every week, but I also do a webcomic on Tapastic. Of the same name, but I call it Monkey Ronin Mini Adventures. Just kind of quick strips that I do every week that I throw up there. They're more comic than they're more funny than anything. Mm-hmm. And I pretty much write, draw it, and color it, and edit it, and everything. And I have nothing but great respect for all the writers and artists and editors and publishers out there.
All right, so a little bit about myself. I've been doing comics for quite a few years for the major companies, and right now I have 3 strips on Tapastic, one called The Funnies, another called Zone 26, and another that's finished right now called Tangent City, which is more of a learning tool for artists about how to avoid tangents in artwork. All right. So
that's a really good.
Yeah. So let's start. So what I want to do is just go through the process, one piece at a time, and see how everybody else approaches that part of it, and then we'll talk and discuss, and then move on to the next part. So that's the kind of framework but we're artists, so we'll go free form, so don't feel restrained. Okay, so I'll start, and it seems like everybody here so far is writing and drawing their own strip, correct?
Well, I am. Yes.
It is for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So myself also, and I think for that, since I think it doesn't really matter what format the script is in when you write it, because for me, I don't really write a script. I kind of draw it all out, and then I'll write on the side like what the dialogue or anything is, and then I'll start drawing my strip from there.
That's kind of how it works.
Gregory?
Yeah. My situation is a little different only because I work with a writer. So we're co-creating, and he's writing the majority of the script, and then I'm also coming up with stuff and adding stuff in. But it does start with hold on just a second.
Okay.
It starts with a lot of phone conversation because we're not in the same geographic location. We're opposite coasts, but there's a lot of going back and forth about ideas, and then Bill turns it into script pages, and then over the process that I do the layouts and start collating ideas, reference stuff, whatever, because it is a historical period sort of piece. A lot of new ideas come out of the research that I do, and I'll say like, hey, it'd be really great if we do this or we do that, and then he'll throw that in, or frankly, he'll do a Kirby Lee kind of thing where he'll say, just draw it, and then I'll write the dialogue to match it. So we start with we definitely have a concrete thing, and it's very structural, but we also, because we have extremely similar tastes and similar creative impulses, it's really easy if somebody like me starts to improvise that he can work with it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What's your comic, Craig?
Yeah, it's called Holiday, and it's Holiday, HOLLIDAY, like as in Doc Holliday, holidaycomic.com.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay,
And,
Scotty?
yeah, so there you go.
Scotty?
Yes.
Okay. And your process?
Yes, I'm here. Oh, before I go into it, I just want to say that is an awesome process to work with another collaborator. As long as you have that strong bridge, that is phenomenal. I've worked with other creators in the past.
Yeah, we're very lucky to have made that connection many, many years ago, and we're best friends. It's a good relationship. Yeah.
So, my creative process is a bit similar. When I write it out, I always write it out like pencil and paper, just old school. But I also do thumbnail sketches of how I think the scene should look, and then from there I start to draw a lot of panels on different pages, or sometimes I don't draw them on paper. I just draw them straight in the computer with a tablet, and then I'll look through and see if the flow is working very well. But before I put in any fine detail of any pencil or pen or color work of any kind, I've written down all of these notes next to my thumbnail sketches of how the story should be, and I take the time to write out the entire story. And when I read it through, I read it like a staged play, how just the flow, the movement, the understanding, and all the dialogue between characters. And then I look at everything that I've drawn, or pre-concept, and I look to see how the dialogue is going to fit in word balloons around the scene, because I don't want to waste too much time drawing and painting a scene and then suddenly covering it up with dialogue balloons. That time adds up, and it makes me as an artist, me as a colorist and a painter, just frustrates me when that art that I spent so much time on starts to get covered up. So I try and delegate my time very wisely when I'm writing it. And then after the script, and I look to make sure that everything read smoothly, then I start into the painting process. And to me, that's the fun part because it really brings it to visual life. And then that's pretty much it. Then I edit it and I'm done.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Wayne?
My process is actually kind of similar to yours, Howard. Like it's very thumbnail centric, right? Like I like to this thing I'm drawing now, right? It started out as a page with like 4 or 5 different thumbnails, and what I do is I'll come up with an idea. Like so, the idea will be there's a superhero and he has spikes for fists, and he fights an army of bad dudes who are fish people today, right? So then I kind of draw a page full of kind of interesting pictures of a dude with spikes for fists fighting fish people, and like I'll write down some ideas, like dialogue ideas that kind of spring from those scenes, and that's kind of how I ideate. I come up with different things that I think are interesting, because the more interesting I think something is, the more likely I am to finish working on it and to do a good job on it, I think. So yeah, I mean I do that, and then I kind of extrapolate those things out into actual scenes instead of like snapshots from scenes, and then I write a script, and then I draw finished pages from them. And right now I'm trying to if you can see the video here, I'm trying to get a lot better at integrating like digital into my workflow, because the way this comic I'm working on now is called All Star, and it's about a girl who's a superhero. And most of the thumbnails I'm doing and most of the pages I'm doing are small. They're like 3 by 5 inch cards, with pretty loose pencils on them. And then I scan them or take a picture with my camera, tighten them up in something like Manga Studio, which I'm working in now, and then ink them in Manga Studio also, color them in Photoshop, and letter them in Illustrator, and then it's a comic, So that is what I'm shooting for as my final process,
And what's the name of this comic you're working on right now?
The thing I'm working on right now is called All Star. It's it's about a girl. She's a superhero. It's very cute. Her dad is like a real powerful super guy, and he goes missing, and so she has to take his place, basically. But she is, she's very young. She's like 5 to 6 or something like that. So.
Pretty cool. Thanks. Okay, I'm going to share my screen because I do thumbnails, but I do it after the part I just described. Because here, I'm doing my thumbnails. I'm doing an 8.5 by 11 paper, just doing real small. Because when I'm doing the initial writing and putting it out, I'm not really thinking about what's in the scene. I'm not really drawing that out per se. It's more like stick figures, like even less sketchy than this is. But then when I get to what I call my official thumbnail stage, then I'm really trying to compose the scene, and also I'm pacing out, because also doing the original. Before I get to this stage, I really haven't plotted out the pages. It's just a series of images, and now I'm concentrating more on where the page breaks will be, where the dramatic points will be. I try to end every page on something dramatic that makes the reader want to turn to the next page. So now I'm thinking about that. So now I'm thinking about pacing more and composition and laying out the panels. So this is the next stage for me here. So this is when I'm doing my thumbnails and thinking about what's going to be in it. Now, even though at this stage it looks pretty good, but I'm still not married to what's here. So as I go further into the process, this may change. But sometimes it may stay pretty close to the thumbnails, because I've been doing it long enough that I kind of have an idea of what I want, but also allow for some inspiration to happen later on in the process.
Cool. Now, when you guys are writing comics, like how much do you guys leave in the way of gaps, right? Like between the things that are going to happen, right? Like from when you start to come up with ideas for something and you start sketches.
What do you mean by gaps?
I come with this question because you said the thing about you like to leave room for inspiration to happen, and I find that myself, if I don't have not a lot, but if I don't have a fair amount of mystery between one thing that is certainly going to happen and the next thing that's certainly going to happen, that it's very easy for me to like kind of lose my focus, to lose my inspiration, right? Like to lose my muse while I'm working on something. So I like to leave, like between coming up with thumbnails and then going into like a script or a really loose script, or and then finished pages. I like to leave like a fair amount, I guess, that is mutable, that can be changed around. Not definitely exact. And I was wondering if you guys did the same thing, right? I'm kind of wondering if I have a psychosis or if we all have the same psychosis, right?
You want to answer, Scotty?
That's right. Put me on the spot. Well, I do leave some gaps there, even after I look over the script to make sure that everything is finalized, and to me, to make sure that everything reads smoothly. I do leave a bit of a gap for something that can be changed or that can be added. And I feel that it's nice that I leave at least a little bit of something. My problem is I make too much and I can't fit it all in. But there's been quite a few scripts that I've written up. I've gone. I don't know how far ahead that you write your scripts at, but I've written up scripts that have, like, I've written issues 7 and 8, and issue 1 is out in print and available in digital. And I've noticed that there's no room in one, and there's too much information or too much story that's just too much that's crammed into one area, and there's so many gaps that I've left in other issues that I can spread a lot of that story into, like, say, example, issue 2, issue 3, issue 4, so that way it spreads and evens out. It's nice to have that gap, or to leave gaps a little bit, so that way if you change your mind or something doesn't feel right, you can always add or take out.
Okay,
yeah.
For myself, like when I'm doing what I call my writing stage before I get to the thumbnails, there's gaps in between that, because I'm really just trying to get the ideals down and not lose them and get them in concrete form. But when I do the thumbnail stage, that's when I'm trying to nail stuff down and make sure there aren't any gaps left, because the thumbnails is where it's going to help me, because I don't like that blank page, sitting down to that blank page, because that's scary and intimidating. So I want my thumbnails to be there, so I don't have that happening. So by the time I get to the page, I don't have any gaps. All my thinking is done, all the creativity, composition-wise, I know where the characters are standing. I still may have to design them. Like I may not have designed any characters at this point. So that's pretty much the only gaps I have by the time I get to the thumbnail stage.
Cool. Now, Howard, what's your comic? Like, what's the comic that you're working on now?
Right now I'm working on online comics. It's on Tempastic. One's called The Funnies. That's a regular one that I'm doing.
And you're doing these all simultaneously, then? There's not like one thing they're working on right now. Okay.
They come out weekly. So The Funnies is pretty much a day-to-day strip where I just look at the humor in life, and also I try to go into the geek and nerd world and look at the funnies, things that may happen, like in the superhero world. Stuff like that, or pop culture. So I'm looking at it from two different angles. And then I got Zone 26, which is just totally weird and is wordless and just something I just like to have fun with. One of my friends, John Batumove, calls it cartoon jazz.
Okay, cool.
Very weird. Okay, Greg is back.
Yes, and I am relatively noiseless and child-free at the moment.
Okay, cool.
It would be kind of cool, since we do have the group chat capability, if people wanted to type in their URLs to where their stuff is.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm sorry I lost the train of a little bit of what was going on while I was shuffling downstairs.
Okay, well, Wayne asked about any gaps in the process? Like how much do you leave out before you like finalize things?
Oh, you mean like to what degree is it sort of spontaneous at the
Right,
at
like
the end
improvised,
point?
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm extremely bad with doing, not bad at it, but lazy about doing thumbnails. Although I'll do them when things are just completely incontrovertibly difficult. So I can't come up with something in my head. So I got to do it, you know. But and I would say that, you know, like a lot of people who are lazy, you kind of develop a technique out of your laziness, you know, right? And you develop techniques out of what you can't do. So to kind of hide and, you know, sort of, you know, play the magician game, you know, where's the quarter? So it's sort of like that's what happens. So like I'll read the scripts and I'll cut it up on the script. He doesn't really tell me. I mean, he has page numbers, but he's sort of like, do whatever you want, because we're on the web anyway, so we don't really care. You know, there's no page count issues. I'm not working professional comics, so it's okay to kind of ramble or do what we want to do. So I'll cut up the script into what I think they should be as pages, and then cut up the sentences into what I see as the panels, and then I'll draw a grid based on that number that I need. So if the page is 4 panels, or I think it's 6 or whatever, then I just go through the grids of what I feel are adequate 6, 7, whatever panel grids. I tend to like to use rectilinear, widescreen, cinematic kind of grid panels if I can, or tall ones or whatever. Mm-hmm. So it's not like I don't do like crazy panels. I don't do like unglued, unstructured stuff that way. So it's like what grid's going to work, and then I kind of fit it to the grid. And then if there's a and usually I can come up with something as I'm doing it. If I can't, then I'll go back and I'll thumbnail the page, which is, you know, totally half-assed and ridiculous, but I probably need to knuckle under, or, you know, knuckle down or whatever, and start getting more structural as this project gets, you know, more I don't know, resolute or whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Whatever works for you, man. You know.
Yeah. Well, there's things that work, and then it's like, oh, you gotta have another page done this week, or 2 pages this week, right? Which is like boo-hoo, because, you know, there are people in professional comics who have to have 1 million pages done a week. But even with that deadline, I can see where my my little dilettante way of doing things is probably going to have to change.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
All right, so now after the thumbnail stage, I'm going to share my screen again, because Scotty mentioned that not wanting to have to like redo lettering and leave a room. So, because before that, I used to have that problem, but now what I do is I'll quickly just lay out the panels and then just throw some lettering down. Mm-hmm. And this is not final lettering at all, because I haven't done anything with the word balloons. I'm just throwing it down. You know, this is not the final lettering. This is just, you know, just there. So I kind of have an idea of what the space will be. Now, what I used to do before is just, well, before there was various stages I went through before I got to that point. Digital makes it much easier. That's definitely for sure. But while I was in analog, actually I would actually write out the dialogue on the page, on the pencil page, and then later I saw, you know, that wasn't that good, because then if the letterer didn't fully letter in the space, then there was all this art that had to still be drawn. So now I draw all the full art, and then I match these numbers to the word balloons on the scripts, and then take it from there. So that's if I'm handing it off to a letterer. But now, since I'm not, you know, I do this now, so now I can have an idea of what the space is going to take up, and then I can plan out what I want to do.
That's a really good idea.
Anybody want to take it from there? Okay, then let's move on to the next thing then.
Sure.
Okay, so next then is doing the pencil art. So right now I'm moving I'm moving more to digital. But so it's a combination now of doing my pencil art and scanning it in and doing it right on the computer. So when I'm doing it right on the computer, I'm not doing full pencils like this. I just put enough down so that I know what I have to draw, and then when I'm doing the inking stage, the digital inking stage, that's when I'm actually doing the drawing, because I hate drawing twice. And since I don't have to, that's what I'm doing. Okay, so anyone want to talk about penciling stage?
Well, penciling is really loose. Like I said, it's virtually, thumbnails. I'm virtually inking right from thumbnails. Like I tighten them up in Manga Studio with a blue line sketch pencil. But for the most part, yeah, drawing like a 3x5 card, taking to Manga Studio, and yeah, I try and do.
Do you have two things on? Because I hear echo.
For me?
Yeah.
I have my headphones on, so you should not. Unless let's see if my phone is.
It wasn't before, but I'm hearing it now.
Yeah.
Windows open or
Somebody got something on your speaker, maybe?
I'm using a headset, so no.
Yeah.
I've got my headphones on.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm hearing it all around, actually.
It could be
go
a
ahead.
sound card burp. Sometimes the audio can kind of almost do like a digital equivalent of a reverb sort of thing. That can happen.
Okay,
Now,
go
are
ahead.
you?
Sorry to interrupt.
No. Are you hearing it now still?
It seems to be less now.
I don't hear anything.
I
Yeah,
hear
me
it.
neither.
Okay,
I can
go
hear it. I
ahead.
can hear it when I talk. So I don't know where it's coming from. Though.
Oh, you know what, Howard? You're not using a headset. You're using onboard mic and speakers,
Yeah,
and sometimes even noise and echo cancellation is not super perfect. So that may be what's
okay.
going on. It may just be on your end.
Yeah, because I don't hear it on yours or Scotty's, but I just heard it on Wayne's.
Yeah, I'm somewhat loud, so I might
Okay.
actually over.
All right, so
over-
all's good. Everybody else, nobody else has.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead. Go ahead. Wayne. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh no, that's cool. That's cool. I don't remember exactly what I was saying, but no, my pencils are pretty loose. They're almost non-existent. Like these are not things I will be able to sell later on at a con, right? Like they're little cards. I can show you in Mega Studio here what they look like. They're very very loose, sketchy kind of things. Layouts.
Did you share your screen? Your icon is up.
What's that? Oh, are you not seeing what I'm doing now?
No.
Let's unshare and share again. How about now?
You seen it?
Can you guys see what I'm doing?
No.
You can't? Really? Okay.
Okay, can you see him now? I can see you.
No, I have a small black thumbnail for him,
Oh.
for Wayne, and but the rest of us I see our live video.
Ooh.
Now I see Wayne's desktop in his thumbnail,
Okay.
and it hasn't yet become the primary screen yet.
Yeah, I see he's trying to get there. I see
Awesome.
it in the back.
Yeah.
Ah, there we go. Success.
Yay. The 21st century, where we will instantly delay you faster than we've ever delayed before.
Yeah, computers are supposed to make our lives easier.
Well, it does, but in really tiny increments and breaking
Yeah,
up kind of pieces. It's like, we defy you to come up with any time in your life when you've had more delays be so more tasty and efficient.
and keep your eyes fixated on the screen while you wait.
Well, that's why I think, yeah, that's the interesting part, is like you're hypnotized and yet at the same time you're having the stress of things not going fast enough. Which
Right.
I find to be unbelievably bizarre.
I can't look away. I can't look away.
I have
Yeah. Oh, go
I
ahead.
have a question for everybody. What is it in that distracts you in your mind when you're writing or creating?
Oh, go ahead, please.
For me, what could be a distraction is emotional distress. So, something happens and then that I'm thinking about that, so that will distract me. Or if I have an argument with somebody, then that's on my mind. So those are the type of things that distract me. Otherwise, I can stay pretty focused. Greg?
I would say all of the above. And I think the most recent one. I mean, well, the kind of thing you're talking about, Howard, for sure. But I also have some chronic health issues, which is, one of the things that sort of would completely take me out of the loop for professional working, at least the kind of stuff you're doing, Howard, for sure. So that's an issue. That's one of those like binary things. It's like you can do it or you can't kind of thing.
Yeah.
But having said that, I definitely suffer from the classic procrastinative behaviors and those things that make them worse. So one thing I recently did was to just kind of reorient my brain around social networking and say, like, this stuff is absolutely hideous for life and is only useful for self-promotion, and therefore I'm only going to allow it into my life where on those times when I have something to promote. Except for like the few friends that I actually see in real, actual flesh space, you know what I mean? Because a lot of them don't want to use email and they want to use Facebook. But I don't post anymore. That took an enormous amount of stress and distraction out of my life, just the Facebook part. So I can imagine what the rest of it would be as I start to like cut that away.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Okay,
Yeah.
Scotty?
What distracts me is any emotional turmoil. Like sometimes when I'm thinking about something, like my mind will go on a wild tangent and just think about something else. Like it could be something as random as a bad high school moment, even though I'm writing fantasy. And suddenly, like the emotion like comes to the surface, or anything really. There's always the daily concerns, like everybody has. Keeping the lights on, finding freelance gigs, because that's what I do. Really, that there are just general responsibility worries, just what everybody does. I try not to have it bother me so much.
Cool.
I always try. It's a form of discipline that you forge for yourself. Gregory mentioned this before, and sometimes, like, what am I trying to say? You create a set of disciplinary steps for yourself. It may not work for everybody else, but you know they're going to work for you. There are certain things that I am lazy about, and that's why you forge your own outline of discipline, mental and emotional and creative, and it helps and it works for you, but you're the only one that can use it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
And for you, Greg, Wayne? What distracts you, Wayne?
I think he's distracted.
He's distracted now.
Either that, or he's like, or maybe where he's going like, "Hello, can you hear me?"
My mic was muted. Yeah. Is that better? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. No, everything is distracting, man. Like,
Yeah.
I don't watch TV. I don't go out of my way to read comics anymore. I don't. I can't listen to like talk radio or watch the news. I don't hang out with my friends very often anymore. You know, I really have to focus to get things done. And you know, every once in a while you have to take a break and kind of reconnect with everybody. You know, everybody that you know and kind of humanity in the world around you. But everything is distracting. Everything takes you far away, or it can, or if you let it. For me, yeah, I mean, it really has to be a thing of like, yeah, if I'm not at the office, I wake up and I go to the coffee shop for the first part of the day. Like today, go to the coffee shop and I work for 4 hours or 5 hours, and then I come back here to talk with you guys on Google Hangouts, right? Like, and when I'm done talking to you guys, I'll color some comics pages, and that's it. Because if I don't do that, I just get taken far away from it. I can't go to the movies very often. I can't read novels like I used to. You know, and those things are cool and I enjoy them. It's like I enjoy hanging out with my friends. But yeah, I don't know. It's a matter of worth, I guess, and where my attention is right now. You kind of have to prioritize it in such a way that the thing that I think is more valuable is getting my attention.
So what's a situation that would typically, although it sounds like you've gotten that under control, and anybody here, like what's an actual situation where you're like, this is what will derail me, blah, you know, what's one of those things?
Oh, girlfriend.
Right.
Whenever I have a girlfriend, my output immediately becomes like super high. I become very productive, and then like 3 weeks into it, once like that honeymoon period is over, it's like hitting a wall. Right? Like there's so much to think about outside of the comic. You know, yeah, I don't know. It's probably not like that for everybody, but for me it is. That is like a huge distraction.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely having an argument with somebody because I seem to need like positive energy flowing through me while I'm drawing. Unless I'm drawing a fight scene, then I want to be angry. That doesn't always happen at the right time. Anything for you, Scotty?
It looks like we got somebody new in. Is that right?
Cool.
Where?
LR Hernandez came up.
Oh, yeah, okay. Who's not showing up on mine?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got it from chat in. Oh, yeah, no, it's definitely in the call. Huh.
I don't see him. Does anybody else see him?
Now they faded away.
Yeah, he's not showing up for me. He maybe showed up and then took off.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he said, I'm here. Maybe he'll try again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to put the link in the chat just in case he comes back, since you can see him, Greg.
Yeah, he just kind of came up in my little chat window.
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Scotty. You were talking.
This is going to sound really cruel. Family members that want to stay here for a couple of days. I just want to put my head in a vice. You know, I have no problem socializing with people like here, or to hang out, to go have coffee, to go find a place to kind of, you know, wander around and get lost for a bit, to stay away from the desk for a while, because I'm here every day. But I'm immediately thinking in the back burner of my mind, okay, I'm going to get this, I'm going to get this, and this is going to be a great this, and this, and this. Checklist, ready, made. As soon as I get home, set, go. So that's pretty much it.
Okay.
I have a question for everyone.
Yes.
What is it that inspires you the most today?
Let's see.
You shouldn't even have to think about it.
You mean like right at this moment? Like what has inspired me the last?
Well,
I mean,
obviously not something that's inspired you in 1986, but what is it that inspires you?
Oh, it was the
What is
latest.
it that-
It was the latest issue of Grips by that great Silverwolf Comics company. That was
Well,
awesome. When he had the claws and he killed the guy. That was.
No.
Well, I don't know if you're asking what inspires me the most or what's
Okay,
inspired
okay.
me.
Well, let me rephrase it. What is it, when you're creating something, what is it that inspires you the most? Is it a movie? Is it a book? Is it a funny comment that somebody said that you would love to see drawn and visually put in front of you?
Oh, it's usually other people. It's usually people I know. You know, like
Oh, cool.
there was something like I don't know. I've had like neat ideas and like cool like I really want to do this comic that about like an alien invasion, but the aliens get here and they have to deal with the vampires who have already taken over Earth. But it's like there's no personal anything in that. It's just a dumb idea I had. You know, it sounds like a lame movie that somebody in a Quentin Tarantino movie would watch, right? Like it's not like there's nothing human about it. And like I don't know, ideas that kind of move me or become something or that I can maintain like a lot of fire for. There's always like a real person behind it, or like a some kernel of somebody that actually exists. That's usually what I find, right? Because normally if I like somebody enough that they make me start to make a comic or a story, I continue liking that person, right? Like and I continue like falling in love with that thing about them or whatever. And I don't know, that kind of informs what happens. I really hear myself on the feed. Do you guys hear it?
I do not.
Okay.
I do.
All right, let me get headphones. Maybe I'm the problem.
Could be.
I'll be back.
Alrighty.
Dun, 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 dun,
There are a few
dun,
things I
dun,
hate
dun.
more than my voice, right? Like, I don't know if it's the same for everybody.
For me, I'm actually, and it's all because of the projects that I'm working on right now. But the book Holiday is basically a really weird occult smash up of like occult horror and Western stuff, which people are already been doing. But ours is totally different. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, it doesn't matter.
Right, yeah, and within that platform, our thing is heavy psychedelics, movies like El Topo and Magic Mountain, Jodorowsky, and a lot of the like high experiment, low budget stuff of the 70s. It's kind of like that kind of filter, right?
Well, cool, man.
And so what happens is like, my writer friend and I are like, well, we love this, we loved underground comics. We love this and that. So what ends up happening is right now, like for instance, to get ideas for Holiday, I'm looking at Jack Jackson, I'm looking at Spain Rodriguez, I'm looking at a lot of the guys that were doing the much more less drug-oriented, much more mystical or psychedelic kind of underground stuff. And that and like what was called in the old days like ground level comics. They'd be like kind of genre comics, but they were done by small outfits like Star Reach or whatever. That's the stuff that's really and also like what was the company used to do, like Creepy, Eerie, all that stuff, because they were doing either work that was extremely experimental or it was just people had the leeway because like the budgets were low and there wasn't as much pressure on the commercial end of it. So that's been huge, actually, because I've been re-sifting through all that stuff that I grew up on and realizing to what degree that's what really charged me up when I was younger to want to do comics, right? And the other one, actually, is, I don't know if you guys subscribe to Leif Peng's Today's Inspiration.
No.
What
is it?
He's a guy who's been in illustration for many, many years in graphic design, and I think he started out as a blog, but he's been doing it for a long time. What he does is he just every day he's got a pile of classic usually 20th century, mid 20th century illustrators, and there's always new stuff to show, and it's the classic Look magazine, Saturday Evening Post, Collier's, that kind of era of the golden era of paperback and magazine illustrators, and it constantly charges you up. It constantly gives you ideas, and so that's like a daily kind of jolt thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some stuff that's specific, that's inspiring, but that one, every day I get some kind of idea, I would say. So.
Awesome.
Okay. For me, oh no, I hear it echo. I mean, I get inspired by whatever I'm going through during the day, and interaction with people, the few people I interact with, because since I freelance, I'm mostly solitary doing this by myself. So when I do interact with somebody, it's just like I'm all in. I'm fully engaged, and sometimes while I'm engaging with them, I'm thinking, I'm getting creative ideas, or later on I'll run it back in my head, and then I'll think of something. But the main thing, that inspires me, that keeps me going on a day-to-day basis, is just the love of drawing. I've always wanted to do that, and I can't imagine not doing it. It's like life or death to me. It's like breathing. So that just really just keeps me going, because a lot of things that can happen, that have happened to me, that make it just hard to go on. But I just want to do it. So now let me ask a question. How do you get over the hump? Like you're drawing along, and this happens to me. It's not as often because I do have deadlines. But you're drawing along a comic book, and nothing's coming out. You're drawing, and it's just not working. So how do you get over the hump?
If you get stuck, like a block?
Yeah. Or it's not when you're just stuck, but you know what you have to draw, but it's just not coming out well.
So I don't like. So I'm drawing something, but I don't like it. For me, it's I don't know. It's like it's time to take a break. If that happens to me, I go and work on something else for a little bit, come back.
Okay. Rick?
I like to run in circles and scream and shout.
Does that work?
No, as it turns out, it's never worked in 20 years. Yeah, I might have to try a different technique. No, you know what I do is, probably you guys know what I'm talking about. Like, it usually takes an exterior force. So I have a roommate, right? Mm-hmm. And she'll be like, knowing that, like, I'm obviously seething. We're best friends. We've been friends for many years, and she'll like go, maybe you should like get up and stop doing that for a while. And I'll be like, oh yeah, and I'll like throw down the whatever, and but yeah, like I know exactly what you're talking about, man. It's like I go through real stress, and of course, again, probably if I laid out my stuff a lot better, I'd eliminate half of the potential stress. So yeah, so you got to stop, and usually though, if I'm really gonna make it better, what it turns out that works is actually drawing to completion a completely other thing that has no. Is totally for its own sake, but really get it to the end, even maybe color it, and that will usually take care of it, I find. It's like, it's almost like you need to use the same muscle, but on a different event, and then you get enough time off, but you also don't, like, utterly stop being in the groove, right? So it's okay. Like, and you also don't have that, like, guilt of, like, oh, I just screwed off and I didn't get anything done. You did get something done. It has no purpose.
Right.
But you still have it. But the purpose it did serve was to unblock the going nuts, right? So yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what I do.
Scotty?
I draw up like if it doesn't go one way, I try and draw it a different way. I try and draw it several different ways, like an action scene or a story. One time when I went to a convention, Mark Waid said, if it doesn't work the right way, go left. Go straight, go up, go diagonal, go somewhere in time, go anywhere in the direction that you're trying to pursue. Because you're going to keep hitting that brick wall, and you're not going to drive through that. What works best for me is I just leave the house, I get away, and what I do is I drink and draw. That means I will go to a comic shop, and it looks like a coffee thermos, and whatever liquid I put into there, let's just hope it's digestible. And I usually find either some local or underground comic artists, and we just sit there with a pad and just come up with weird ideas.
Right.
I've been thankful so far. It's been coffee that I've been putting in my coffee thermos.
Because I was going to say you were very close to the Wally Wood method of generating comic books. Only, you're with other people and you're not going to have kidney failure.
Yeah.
So.
Well, let's just hope the test results come back and confirm that. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah, we don't wish that on you.
Well.
Yeah, so for me, I used to walking away and going outside used to work. Well, it still works. But for a more productive way for me to get over the hump was I just started drawing the backgrounds because that didn't require the same type of creative muscles as drawing figures, because that's perspective and parallel lines or perpendicular lines. And I found that if I just drew backgrounds, that helped me get back into the groove, into the flow of what I was doing. So before I knew it, I was out of the hump.
Yeah.
So that worked for me.
Yeah, I've heard that some people who do the whole job all the way, they'll do things like they'll letter other pages, for instance. Something like that takes almost no... It's all low pressure creatively. And something else gets done on the project, right? So, by definition, you're still working, right? So.
Yeah, I found it the most effective way, draw panel borders, draw whatever. That's not so pressure or so creatively draining, and then that helps. All right, does everybody letter their own books?
Yes.
Own work?
Mm-hmm.
Now, do any of you guys hand letter?
I do not.
No, I do not.
I don't either. I'd like to learn it.
I tried to learn it, and I did do it, but it was just so. It just creatively just wasn't fulfilling for me. Doing the hand lettering. But once the digital lettering came out, I said, that I can work with.
I have been considering for a while, just for fun, to actually get a real proper Ames lettering kit to try to do the lettering that they used to do for EC Comics.
Yeah.
And that's the only way you can do that is with one of those kits. So, I mean, it'd be kind of fun for an experiment, I think.
I mean, you can get it in any art store, the Ames lettering guide. I mean, that's pretty much all you need. There's no kit.
Oh, wait a minute. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm sorry, I had the wrong name. Yeah, the Ames is just a little plastic thing.
Yeah.
I'm talking about in the 50s at the EC Comics, they used to use a thing that was essentially like a pantograph, and all the typefaces were on these sort of like ceramic slabs. And what you would do is the one end of the pantograph had a mechanical pen, like a drafting pen tip, and then the other was a tiny stylus, and you would run it in the grooves of whatever the typeface you wanted to use, like Helvetica or something else, and on the other end it would draw the type in ink.
Oh, I never heard of that.
And I'm sorry, that's right. It's not Ames, but yeah, I'll find it. And they used it because there was no photo typesetting at the time, or at least not that they could afford. But they could get one person to just do all the lettering, and then they cut it out, I think, and apply the lettering onto the pages or something like that. But
pretty
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, it was cheaper. I guess because Bill Gaines was all about cheaper, and it was the cheapest way to have lettering that was coherent and not have to rely on an actual letterer, for the job. Like anybody could technically pick it up and use it if they were in a jam or something.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
All right. So since everybody's doing digital lettering, I use mostly Blambot and Comic Crazy, and the font I seem to be drifting towards that I like more is blah 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 from Comic Craft. What are your good what lettering fonts do you like to use? Wayne?
ClockJumpers is all lettered with, I believe, Action Man from Blambot. I believe it's from Blambot. It's like a free font.
Yeah.
And I have a couple of books, like they're called Dog Star and Pink Snoozle, and they're lettered with like a free font, I think, from Font Squirrel. If you guys haven't been to Font Squirrel, it's pretty cool. Let's see if I have a link to it somewhere. But yeah, Font Squirrel is just like a huge the depository of like fonts. Pretty much anything you want.
Okay. Well, when you find it, you can put it in the chat section on the right. Okay, Scotty.
I either Blambot or free fonts whatever I can find, or if I'm feeling extra creative and really put a staple on what I'm typing, is I'll design my own font. I mean, I don't do it often, not as often as I used to, but I designed the font that I use for the cover of my books because I really want to show that it's all me. But I usually just Blambot whatever's free. It sounds lazy.
Greg?
I'm not using a traditional font, comic book font for Holiday, since it's set in Wild West era. I kind of deliberated over hand lettering, and I tried using like a standard font, and I hated it. I hated everything. And finally, I was like, you know what? If this was a book, if this was like an adventure book published in a like a Penny Dreadful or something like that, back east or whatever, in that period of time, they would be using a book font. So basically all the text in my balloons are book fonts, but they're these kind of artistically distressed book fonts that are scanned out of books from the 17th, 18th, 19th century, and so they have crust to them, and also they are not a Times Roman, they are actually a 18th or 19th century looking typeface. So that for me was like the most sensible thing to do, because I was going crazy over it, and I was like, I think this is the way to go. So and I think it looks good. There aren't many pages up, so there isn't like tons of dialogue with it yet, but I do like what it looks like. So, and for that, but if I was going to do like a regular superhero thing or science fiction thing, I would probably just use any of the fonts that you guys are talking about, just something that looks solid and doesn't call a lot of attention to itself. Yeah.
I think it's good that you made a creative decision like that, Greg.
Yeah.
And I think also because we do have digital fonts available, I mean, you're not really beholden to using like the comic book fonts or the comic book style fonts. I think more creative decision. I think think comic book lettering should be more creative now and fit what the story is, fit the style of the story. And I've seen some people experiment with giving each character their own font. And also, I think that it doesn't have to be all caps either, because the whole reason all caps came out was because during the golden age, the printing technology wasn't that good. So when you had a lowercase e, would fill in, but now we don't have that. So it wasn't a creative decision; it was a technology decision, because they wanted to do upper and lowercase.
Yeah,
So,
and actually, that was part of what I did too with the holidays. It's all UNLC, because of course, if imagine serif lettering all caps, it's like people are screaming at each other at the top of their lungs. And I realized, like, well, wait, like, there's so much room for actually using case now to illustrate mood and emphasis, right? So you can actually now, used to be it was all caps, and so it was either bold or italicized to make various emphasis, right? Now we can say, oh no, if it's upper and lowercase, that's conversation. If you're screaming, it's all caps, or maybe it's upper and lowercase, but it's bold. Therefore, we're talking a little bit more emphatically, right? I mean, I think it would be cool to play with the fluidity of what you can illustrate with the text. Yeah.
Awesome, man. You really remind me of a buddy of mine. He's like very into the. He's very, very, very like passionate about the craft of it, and he's very like on that side of things. And listening to you talk really kind of reminds me of him.
Oh, that's cool. Actually, I am your friend. This is not my real face. I'm fucking with you.
Knew it. Got me again, Nathan.
okay,
Yeah,
so
I think craft's really important. I mean, you can get mired in it. I think I do. But it's like there's this thing. I think it comes out of, again, I think it comes because I can't be as prolific as a lot of you guys are. And so if I'm going to do something, I really want it to like be not just like effective, but I want it to really like punch. And I think it's these kinds of almost like set design, like when you saw Deadwood, you were like, holy this is like a real world. Yeah. I want some of that to go on. And if I can't draw it myself, I want to at least photo reference it. And if I can, you can't hear it, so at least you can like do the text part of it and like maybe come up with something that's a little more, I don't know, immersive. At least that's what I would like to have happen.
okay, great. And you bring up a good point that we can segue into next: photo reference. How often and how much, or if at all, do you guys use photo reference? Scotty?
I really avoid using any photo reference except just like sunrises, sunsets, maybe clouds. When I see texture, I go outside a lot, like away from my desk, and I want to see like different types of like suburban, urban. I'm near forests and parks, but I'm also close enough to the public transportation system. I can go pretty much like city and country, and I can be in two different worlds on the same line. I try to avoid using photo references because I feel like it's going to be a bit distracting. So I just imagined, well, I've already been there, so I know what it looks like. I've traveled a lot in my life, so I know what a lot of things look like.
Wayne?
I try to avoid using photo reference as much as possible. I tend to feel like it makes things stiff. I don't know. I worked out at Disney. I live in Orlando. I don't know where you guys are from. But I live in Orlando, and I worked out at Disney for a while drawing caricatures. And one of the things you have to be able to do when you draw caricatures, and comics, the cartoonists, you have to be able to draw anything, basically, in from memory. And I don't know, I really kind of got it stuck in my head that I needed to be able to draw anything. I can't draw anything, but I really don't want to. I really don't want to like rely on something that I think could become a crutch, like a lot of reference. Sometimes it is necessary, but I try and avoid it if at all possible.
Greg?
I'm the goofus of the gallants here in the group because I don't actually trace photos or anything like that, but I do collage backgrounds out of. Again, this is for holiday anyway. I've used stuff from Library of Congress and a lot of historical photos from the period, from New Orleans and all kinds of stuff. So I also have done things like if you look at any of the pages that are up there, there's like some stuff where there's a graveyard, and I needed I needed tundra, kind of, a little bit of snow, a little bit of weeds, and things like that. So I took a lot of pictures around the grounds where I live when it was February, and that stuff gets photo collaged in with the drawings of the area too. So again, it's appropriate for the kind of look that I'm making, but I would never recommend that anybody do it, because now I'm kind of in this place where, it looks a certain way, and I have to maintain that look, which means I have to kind of reference and pull things and, sort of craft an image out of various components rather than it being solely from me. And I like it, and I guess so it is a crutch, but I make it work, so I don't know. But I doubt very strongly I would be able to do monthly comics that way, that's for sure. And I think it is better to be just drawing it all yourself, for sure.
No, I agree. Now, I do use photo reference for mine, and when I was drawing monthly comics, you can't use it for every panel. You just have to pick your moments. For instance, if I have to draw the Statue of Liberty, I could draw a reasonable facsimile off the top of my head. If I wanted to look really good, I found reference for it. And also, I try not to use it as a crutch. I use it as another tool, just like I use anything else. So if I'm drawing a room, it's rare I'm going to find photo reference for a room that's exactly the way I want it. So it really is a combination of a whole lot of things that I found, and then I put that in the room. So I make use of my knowledge of perspective and drawing stuff, to make the room look the way I want. Definitely use reference for cars. And again, it's hard to find a car that's in the exact position that you want it. So really, you have to know perspective, you have to know how to draw things from different angles. So it's still drawing it. So it's using it for reference, not tracing it, right off. There are some times when I do trace, there's some cityscapes, you just trace it all off, because there's no sense in just drawing that all by hand. But the only thing is, like when I'm doing some stuff that has architecture in it, I still have to correct the perspective, because the photograph, the lens, creates a distortion, so the perspective is off. So you can't just trace a photograph off, especially in this building, because the perspective is going to be all wrong. As a matter of fact, I have something on my blog where Jim Lee did something, and the perspective is definitely from a trace background, and it's not incorrect perspective. So again, and usually I haven't found that with them. So it probably was a rush job and just something had to get done, and that happens too when you're on deadline. Just got to get it done. It's faster to trace it than just to draw it by hand. So those are the type of things that happen. But yeah, you really do. I agree with Wayne. You really have to draw all the stuff out your head. And that's where I trained myself to draw it all out of my head. So if I ever did do a 24-hour comic day, which I do want to do one time, it's just all going to be me, just drawing it all out. And the thing we have to become as artists, we have to become observers and create that mental file in our head, for things that we've seen. So if we draw a room, we know, what's basically there. There's molding, there's light switches, there's things on the door. There's molding around the door. The light plugs, ceiling fans, things going all over the place. And then because we got that visual file in our head, we can start building a room that has a facsimile effects that creates an approximate reality, or our version of reality as we're using it in our strip. Because one thing, when I see people use photo reference badly, is when it just jumps out of the book, like, hey, I used a photo reference for this, but none of the other panels look like that. But that's used as a crutch. That's when I think, it's bad, because it just destroys the whole storytelling, the mood, and it brings you out of the storytelling, because once you start drawing, you don't have to draw reality, no matter what style you're drawing, whether you draw like Wayne or Scotty or Gregory. The thing is, once we accept that reality that you've drawn for us, the readers are brought into that reality. But once you do something that's different, that brings them out, then it ruins the storytelling. Because every line you put down should contribute to the story. So if you're drawing that world in a certain way, it should continue to fit that. The rules are what you make them once you start drawing them. So if something suddenly sticks out, then that's bad.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, too, for my particular thing, which is kind of freaky stuff. Fortunately, no one's ever, hasn't been no other book of this, right? I'm not the second guy to draw this story. I'm the first one. And if people are reading these 4 or 5 pages that are done, they're in that look, they're in that sort of setup of how things look. If I suddenly started doing it a different way, that would be drawing. As long as I stay within this, it works. But it is a particularly laborious kind of technique that I've built for myself for this thing. That I also envy those who have the facility with 100% of everything that they can draw to just have that coherency of image. And it may just be that like what I do is what I do. But having said that, I know where the drawbacks are of it. I just looked at your guys' stuff. Wayne and Scotty, and you guys have really great work. So
thanks, man.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much.
I really liked what I saw of your comic.
Thanks, man.
It's pretty cool.
Thanks. But it shows all three of you, that kind of like commitment to, no, I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna push through this, and I think it's really valuable. So.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That means a lot to me because I push really hard every day, and it's not easy because I'm doing all the work. Only I know what it looks like. To build off of what we've said in the last 5 minutes. Only you know what the world looks like. Only when you're making your comic, you know the colors, you know how it smells, how the textures look, how the objects, like wagons and towns and people look, and their costumes, and how they move, and how they look at each other, and how the sky is. You're the only one that knows that. So pulling that out of your brain takes a lot of hard work. So using photo references, I have respect for you if you're looking at them and you have that photographic memory, or if you go outside and you just kind of capture the image and the feel around you, and then take that in and that feeling, and I'm such a loss for words. You can translate that into how you produce the visuals of your book, of your comic, of your strips. Then you've done the most beautiful thing in the world. You've created beauty out of something that you're writing and you're making.
Yeah. I think I don't want it to sound like I'm bashing people who use photo reference, because there are people who do good work and who certainly reference things, are very exact in the things that they draw, right? And they have a real respect and need to have proportions exactly right, and
or they
collage
them in, or they even collage them in, like the guy who used to do Daredevil when when Bendis was on there, and where it's actually using it, actually it's
Alex,
right.
Even,
it's kind of its own sort of art, right, to use it in that way, and there was something great about that. But for me, right, it is certainly a thing of I know that can be a bad devil, right? To sort of depend on that.
Totally.
And to speak to what Howard said a minute ago, my old boss used to say this thing out at the Caricature Connection. He would say that if it looks like a gun, it's a gun, right? If you don't know what that gun looks like, then draw something that looks like a gun, and he would say shade it in totally black, and nobody will notice, because if it looks like a gun, it's a gun. And he's right. I mean, people would come and they're just like, oh, how do you draw guns like that? And it's I can't draw guns. You fell for that trick, right? I don't know. It's something that I think it pays to keep in mind sometimes.
Yeah, there was an old timer who I met at a convention when I was a high schooler, and I don't remember who it was, but he had worked in the 40s, but he worked up into the Silver Age, and he said something like they used to have a rule back in the Golden Age, and you'd see a lot of black stuff, like. And he said because what the rule was, because they just had to get it out of the door, was when in doubt, make it black.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why you saw a lot of silhouettes or reverse silhouettes or whatever. Or like a guy would be standing there and a certain object would have this weird shadow over it that somehow miraculously covered whatever it was. And they were just like, get it out. Just get it done.
Get it done.
Just make it black. Because they'll, I don't know.
Yeah, because that's the thing. You don't have to draw reality. You just have to draw a convincing reality.
Right, and consistency is important.
But you've done your job.
Yeah, as long as you are consistent with the things that you say, right, that you promise the people that are reading your story, I don't think there's a problem in terms of a reality, right, like or beholdenness to reality. Now I have a question. I mean, are we done with this one, with this topic?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, my question is, where do you get stuck? Like when you are making something, where is the point what is the thing that you get stuck on the most? Or is there a thing that you get stuck on the most?
You mean like our hands a problem?
Well, just specific things, right? Like, I know that for me, there is a real tendency to get stuck on world building. I really have to stop myself and just start making something, because if I don't, I will try and plan everything down to, right, like, what does the UN think about this situation, right? Like when it's a story about, like, the Goonies or something, it has nothing to do with the UN. So what are your personal, like, kryptonites, like, where you kind of get caught in a trap, I guess?
I know right away. For me, it's drawing fire and smoke. Like, even if I have photo reference, I just cannot draw that to save my life. And for some reason, I just have a mental block about it. Anybody else?
I will say something. Costumes. Sometimes I don't know when to quit when it comes to fine detail on costumes. Sometimes I just have to say it's done.
Right. There's that old saying, right? Like, your art is done when you walk away from it. Right. Like
sometimes there's that rule.
Never be done.
Right.
Yeah, it's never finished. You just give up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's such a thing as too much. Sometimes you just have to say that it looks good looking like this or this. I don't want each character that I draw and paint to look identical to somebody else. Everybody's different. And, a little bit of differences is fine, but sometimes I just go way overboard and I get frustrated. I am my own worst enemy. And if I walk out of my office in a huff, then it's better I'm gone for the whole day.
Anybody else?
I would say it's a kind of ambiguous, like, how do I say this? It's like, it's got to be right before I start. It's got to be this, it's like, and it's terrible, and it feeds the procrastination from another end, because you're actually trying to do something instead of putting it off, and it's just like, it's just like, no, that's not good enough. It's got to be like more like there's this thing, and I'm evoking because I know in the back of my memory all the stuff that's been done before me, and it's got to be in that standard. So like, no, that's shit, and and you go back and you're crumbling up lots, not literally, but you're sort of filling waste baskets full of canceled ideas, and nothing's ever good enough, and pretty soon there's nothing. There's stasis. You're stuttering full, and that's what I would say is, like, for me, the real bad one, because if I was actually getting caught up in, like, the kind of things you were talking about, I'd get something done. Be like, wow, I did all these costume designs, and that's leading into this great panel over here that I just got finished because I was so... No, it's this, like, preparatory, like, no, that's not good enough. And that's a really weird circular kind of thing for me. Yeah. It can be very negating.
Okay.
But I'm sure none of you guys have that problem because you are all exemplary in your tasks and your productivity. So.
Well, we just have different problems. Is kind of how it sounds.
Yeah.
Okay. Else art related? You guys have an idea? Because I want to move on to something different.
Okay.
If any other questions about the art process or drawing or conceiving or things you just want to talk about? Okay, so then my next thing I'd like to talk about is coloring. Because if I had my way, I would never color anything. I prefer black and white.
What?
Really?
Really? I
can dig it. Because you're a line man. That's why.
Yeah, I am, and the way I grew up, just teaching myself how to draw and going to class, was pen and ink all the way. So I learned how to do shadows and create texture, and I'm just used to seeing my work finished that way. That's it. Once I do it, that's it. Now, if I have
from outer space.
Yes, if I have something that I designed for color, but I think that hello, woman from outer space.
Hey.
Even when I'm drawing something that I know is going to be colored, I still make it as solid as I can in black and white because I think color is only going to enhance it. I don't leave stuff for coloring. I make sure that everything I need is there in the coloring, in the black and white, so that when it is colored, it just becomes better. Now, because I do some coloring now, for client jobs where I don't have that choice of black and white. It's not personal. I try to develop a color aesthetic. So when I'm going into it, I think about the mood, what it's trying to project. Whether I'm going to use primary or secondary or tertiary colors. So all that thing with color theory. So I'm thinking all that before I approach it. Also, if I'm going to use some kind of cell shading or do something fully rendered. So I try to approach that on a job by job basis. So how do you guys approach color when you're doing it? Greg?
Yeah, I do a lot of commission work. That's the work that I can handle with the situation I'm in. So it's for individuals who want depictions of themselves or whatever it might be. And so there's a lot of tailoring to the personality, whatever. But having said that, any of the stuff I'm doing is always starting with hands-on drawing. I don't do digital drawing. I guess I could learn it, but I really don't. I'm very weirded out by not having originals. For me that's a good thing because I know it's my process, so I'm drawing on paper or whatever. So it's always going to have lines, So, but like one commission I did, it was graphite, and it was going to have a digital endpoint for color and collaging. Other ones, they're ending up with a, piece of inked art on Bristol, black and white, big, but still it's just black and white. So it's a lot about dealing with, what they need. Or if it's my own thing, like I'm doing these public domain superhero remodels. We're changing the look and changing even the storylines and stuff. So those definitely have to be inked. But because I want it to fit in with the sort of genre of a comic book character, right, in the end, they're color pieces. So I'm not sure if they stand alone on their own as ink drawings, but yeah, it's all about the final outcome. Like, what's the picture in their head after they've seen the picture on the paper or the screen, kind of thing. That totally establishes what the medium's going to be, kind of thing. I don't know if that answers.
Yeah, no, that's great. Scotty?
Before we go any further, let's give the new joiner a chance. Yes. Woman from outer space.
Hello, woman from outer space.
Hello?
Can you hear us? Can you hear us? Unmute your mic. Oh, no, we still can't hear you.
No, we still can't hear you.
Yeah, at the top where it says
Yeah,
On
top.
Air Storytelling Sunday, you'll see a microphone. It might be in red right now.
Okay.
There you go.
There you go.
Now we can
There
hear
we
you.
go.
Hello, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm just a viewer. I have nothing good to participate but viewing.
Okay.
She's lying. She's a writer.
No, right on.
Well, don't lie.
She's just
I
one of
am?
your artists. Okay, so go ahead, Scotty.
I am very different from a lot. So, in fact, I'm going to show you some visuals here. Do a little screen share. What I do is I either draw it either in pencil and paper or I draw it straight into the computer and then I just go straight into coloring. Start screen share. All right. Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
This is for the cover for my graphic novel coming out in September. And normally I just draw it up and I make sure the composition looks pretty good. I've done this in pencil and paper. Sometimes when I get bored, I'll just either draw it with black on whiteboard in whatever program I've got going on, like Painter or Photoshop. I just use a pen, tablet, and just draw it straight in. And here is stage 2, where I kind of plan out a lot of the colors of where everything's going to be. I don't highlight and then drop in the color, like just wash it. I actually just kind of I color it in just like I would like a crayon or a brush, and I use either Art Rage, Painter, or Photoshop. I've arranged my Photoshop tool set to follow my pen, so that way I'm just coloring it like I would like a brush on canvas. And here is actually the final look.
Wow.
If everybody can see that.
Well, I still have your
Yeah.
webpage.
Yeah, I still see the first one.
Yeah.
I'm not getting the
I'm not getting the Photoshop
actual
thing.
image. Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, weird.
But it's a great looking site.
It
Yeah,
is.
it is.
Oh, thank you.
But
very
you might want to
engaging.
make sure when you screen share, you might want to make sure you share like the I think it says full desktop.
That's
If you
right.
share like a specific program, sometimes it doesn't work.
Yeah, let's try that. Full screen.
Okay, we're back to you.
And then whatever you
Okay.
click on, I think whatever your active window is, and then we'll
Yeah,
turn
go
it
to
to.
screen share.
What do you see now?
I
We
see.
see Greg. We see your
Yes,
screen.
My
Okay,
giant
now we see pencil
moon-like
work.
face.
Yes.
There we go.
Okay, now you're
Okay.
cooking.
All right. You can see a lot of the pencil lines, like around here if you follow the icon. But down here I've got my main character fully painted, and I have him in the front while I was still trying to plan out the two sub-characters behind them. And here is the final look, and also make sure like a lot of the lighting and the texture and the detail and the colors just really work and blend well together.
Very nice.
Cool, man.
Well,
Wow.
thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I don't do the traditional thing where people draw on poster board and they pencil and they ink it and they scan it in and then they just take it in whatever program like Photoshop and just drop in colors behind it. No, I take my cursor and I pretty much go crazy. Like what I've tried to follow the rule of as long as it looks good, that's all that matters to me. And move on.
That's the best rule.
And move on.
Now, Scotty, I don't know if you've ever tried this, but if I could make like a really slight suggestion for you,
Knock yourself up.
if you have never tried this, I would really, really suggest it, because I really like the way this looks. Like, have you ever tried like putting like a containing line like around these after you paint them? Because I know you pencil them and then kind of color them like straight, and then you sort of have like it's a really cool, like the colors kind of bleed right off the edge. But if you put like for those flesh tones, like a color hold, like on the guy's face, right, like a color hold that was like a shade darker than the local color of his skin, right? So like kind of a brown, like something a little lighter than the brown in that shadow under his jaw, like just around those areas. I think it would really make it pop out a lot.
I do.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well. All right.
Yeah, I know, just a suggestion. I mean, I like the way this looks a lot, but I think it would kind of isolate.
No. All suggestions are. You might be right. So I will take your suggestion and go with it.
Okay.
Because there's probably going to be a bit more tweakage that I'm going to do to it just before I go to print or anything like that. So I finished this thing probably under 2 days.
Nice.
A very, 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 very long 2 days.
It happens.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Scotty Flash is back. Wayne, how do you approach color?
Color. Let me open Photoshop here. It's really very straightforward. I think that anybody that's ever watched like a YouTube video on coloring probably colors the same way that I do. I went to SCAD and I majored in comic books. So the way they taught us to color was very, very, I would say very straightforward. Here is a piece that I colored recently. What's this here? This is, can you see my screen? Can you guys see this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
This is All-Star, who is the title character of the book I'm working on now. And the way that I colored this layer still? Yeah, it's pretty basic. It's I have here we go. I have like a black and white line drawn like this. I fill the background with a color, like just like a base. Like this is kind of like a beige sort of color. And normally I turn it down a lot, like a lot more than this. And then and normally it'll actually show up behind her, right? And that's the base for everything. Like whenever I color, I don't like to leave anything white for the most part. And these are her local colors. And yeah, once I get this going, I do it's really very, like I said, it's really very, very simple. I'll show you. Actually, I don't think it would be very hard to show you right now. Like I take like a magic wand or a lasso or whatever. Contiguous. Yeah. And then I just kind of select out where I'm going to drop my colors. And if I want like shadows or anything like that, then I have to do that second. But like if I wanted to make all of Rosalind's hair here kind of the same shade as her face, then I would just Alt delete. It's really simple. Alt delete is fill in Photoshop. Fill with foreground color. That's kind of screwy. Yeah, but for demonstration's sake. For demonstration's sake, let's say that we're gonna just make everything like this. Just kind of select everything out, and like if I use the magic wand, are you guys hearing me kind of echoing again?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Yes.
It's a pretty good one. I don't know where that's. I don't think, is that me? Am I doing that somehow?
Could be.
Okay. Okay, I don't hear it now. It's okay. Basically, what you do is, you know what? Let's actually get rid of these. All right, we'll just color a costume because that's pretty close. You kind of have to make sure all your edges are closed in. If your edges are not closed in, like mine usually aren't, which is why it kind of selects her whole head whenever I choose it. Like this, it kind of selects all her hair too. There is actually a tool in every Photoshop after I think CS2 that's called the Quick Selection tool, which is pretty neat, and it actually kind of skips open gaps under a certain size. So if I just wanted to select her hair, it would be actually possible for me to do so like this. Can you guys see this? Like I don't know how fast the video refreshes. But the way you use that is you hold down when you select the Magic Wand tool, and Quick Select is just the thing right over Magic Wand. So yeah, so if you kind of paint over where you wanna whatever you're selecting. Actually, someone got her face. Okay, so yeah, so if we're just doing her hair there, watch that. Just kind of doing her hair will be like, yes, thank you. It'll be like this, right? And then whenever I am filling in shadows, one of the things I'll do is grab an eyedropper, select the color that you're trying to make a shadow for. This is when I have a lot of time to spare, and then you just kind of use math. Like this has way too much yellow in it, so it would be kind of hard to make a proper shadow for. So you kind of have to cheat it. But normally your values won't have any black and not a whole lot of yellow in them. So normally you just kind of use math and you add the same percentage to every one of these numbers. So if you add 20 to every one of these, right, then you'll get kind of a mathematically accurate. Let's go to 250. They do. Oh no, they don't. Okay, yeah. So you get kind of a mathematically accurate shadow of that color. And this is the reason you don't want a lot of hundreds, because 100, 100, 100 is, of course, black, right? So once you get up that high, you kind of end up with not a lot of options for shadows. So the way that you cheat it, and this is a lot faster, I think this is what most people do. If you color a lot or go to DeviantArt, you probably see a lot of pictures that look this way. And if I'm in a hurry, I color this way too. But basically, you kind of make your cuts where the shadows are going to be. You know, I cut light out and leave the dark spots. The dark is what I'll fill in. But you can actually do this the other way too. And, you know, kind of cut out the dark parts and then fill in a lighter color. There we go. So we'll make these cuts real quick. And then our hair would kind of go like this. There we go. And this one's here. All right, and then we would take, since this is a separate layer, we can actually make this layer like well, you know what? Just make another layer over it. Oh, don't. Actually, make another layer over it, and like this. And then just set it to multiply, which I don't normally recommend doing because it kind of gives you alien color sometimes. But if you're in a hurry, like I am, and then you have like a really rudimentary sort of shadow, but then Control-Shift-F, once you fill anything, will let you fade that last operation back. You can fade it back to 0, which makes it invisible. Or you can fade it back to about 20%, which is usually about what I do, right? And you see how that kind of makes like a more natural-looking shadow. It kind of gets rid of some of the alienness from multiplying colors together. The neat thing about that fade command is that it can fade literally everything. So if you want to come in and like paint things, you can there you go. You can kind of paint here on the. Turn to low. You can actually paint here, like kind of on the edges here, to give like some contrast right before the light. There's like a dark, kind of like a dark spot right near where in the shadows where the dark and the light meet. But when you do that, you know, you can actually, just like I did before, you can just kind of fade it back, right, to make it blend in better with the rest of the picture. Is what I'm saying make any sense?
No, yeah, it's very cool. It's very cool.
Yes.
And another thing I do, and this is what I do when I'm done with my pictures usually, because there we go. I tend to work a lot. We get pretty busy, especially during the summer because of convention season. and so I don't have a lot of time to work on things, not as much as I would like, anyhow. But a really quick way to, if you finish your picture and everything looks all whacked out, like it just doesn't match, like the colors are all, like purple shadows and stuff like that, like green light. Really easy way to fix it, and I really do recommend messing around with this, is to, there we go, is this an RPG already? Yes, it is, okay. Is to select the whole document, and whatever color, whatever like the end color you're kind of going for is, right, so if the whole picture should have like an orange feel to it, you know. Just find you an orange that's not too tacky. It's probably good. And then you're going to fill the whole thing. Control-Shift-F again, and then switch the mode to color. Actually, that should have worked. Oh, wait, sorry. Actually switch the layer to color. There we go. And now everything is basically like filtered through the color that you used, right?
That's a nice effect. You get that for a sunset or nighttime.
Well, yeah, but then you can turn it down, which makes it like harmonize the picture, right? Like, so all of those alien shadows and stuff, all those things where it doesn't really kind of match, you really can bring them all into onto the same side of the spectrum, right, of your color wheel by kind of fading this down to something reasonable, right? Because you still see when I turn this down to about 40%, you still get some of the blue from the thing I did before. You can kind of, like, the local colors are still there, but they certainly orange feel. And for comparison, right, like it was like this with nothing on it. So I don't know. That's kind of the way I color things. I mean, there's other stuff, and but I really gave you like the broad strokes of the way I do it. Everything is just kind of those steps, kind of repeated ad infinitum, right? Like with varying degrees of like granularity, right? Like just small steps between everything. But I mean, those are the basics, you know.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And also, I mean, just a tip that you might want to try, because I don't like math. So, so what I usually do with the color is where in the color panel where I can select RGB or CMYK, I select HSB instead, because then I could control the saturation and brightness and hue there.
Oh, I see.
And then I could bring my shadows in, so I can see how it works there. So that's the non-math way to do it.
Yes.
Might want to try that one day. I'm surprised artists using math.
Yes, well, yeah. I used to know a guy named Lee Lowridge who worked at a place called Silent All Studios in Savannah. He was a pretty cool guy. He owned it, like colored like a bunch of Vertigo books, I guess. But he was really cool in kind of explaining to me how he thought about color, and that's kind of why I think about it that way.
No, this is definitely good work.
I actually have one more trick. This is actually really easy. I just learned this the other day, so it might take me a minute to get it right. But I think it's pretty cool. Let me flatten this real quick, and I'll show you.
Okay.
Here we go. What this does is it takes a picture. Let's see, it's the best way to put this. It takes a picture from that exists already with a specific color palette, and it drops your picture. I guess it kind of splits the difference between your picture. What's that?
Is this a plugin?
It is not. No, it is just a regular Photoshop function. In the desktop. Web stuff. And then reference. And like, let's see. I will be the first to admit I don't know how. I haven't used this a lot, so I don't know exactly how it works or the ins and outs of it. But I do think it's very cool, and I would like to share with people. Adjustments. Yes, Matt, you see this here?
Are you figuring it out?
No, I haven't. Okay, so you see I have my two pictures here. They're both open. You have to open them both. So this is a picture from a Jungle Book illustration. I'm not sure where I got it. And here's my All-Star picture. So I want my All-Star picture to be a little closer in terms of the palette to this one. Right, so select the All-Star picture, go to Image, Mode, Image, Adjustments, then Match Color. Right, and then Source is All-Star. Oh, sorry. Source is actually Jungle Book. There you go. And so now, when you look at my All-Star picture, yeah,
No,
See,
that's
actually,
great.
Yeah, it's really, really simple, and it works. And I don't know, it's something I really like, so I'm trying to share with people.
And is that
Ah,
is that
that's a
a
cool
is that a
effect.
permanent alteration to the layers, or is that like an adjustment layer?
I flattened it.
Oh,
I
okay.
flattened it before I did this.
I
It's
see.
actually
Hey,
just
Lord.
whatever layer you
Hello.
have selected, it just makes that change to that layer.
I see.
But it is actually fadeable, just like
But
everything
if you
else.
were doing that to a layered Photoshop drawing, would it insert simply a sort of a match color adjustment layer on top of everything else, or would it just be to the active layer?
I don't think it's an adjustment layer.
Okay.
Let me step
So
backwards
you
to
need
where
to
this
It
is.
would just affect the one layer that's selected, correct?
I think so. Yeah.
Right. So so to do like that, so that's why in order to do what you were doing, you had to flatten the image.
I'm sorry, I couldn't. There's a little bit of feedback.
Yeah, we got kind of a squawk box there.
Yeah.
That's why in order to do what you just did, you had to pre-flatten the image.
Yeah. The reason I flattened it is because, like I said, I'm not exactly sure how it works, so I'm
Right.
kind of feeling my way around it.
Sure.
But here, I'll do just the layer with All Stars color on it. So let's see how that works. Adjustment, match color.
I'd always wondered what match color was for, so there you go.
That is what it's for. And so there we go. It seems to have adjusted her and left the background the same.
Gotcha.
So and it looks like it actually changed the actual pixels. There's no like secondary layer effect over this.
Gotcha.
So you got.
Although obviously, if you made those objects as smart layers, then you would have some. You could kind of go back and forth a little bit, probably
Yeah.
with it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good
Interesting,
tip.
huh? Wow.
That's a great
That's
tip.
pretty
Thank you.
wild, man.
Yeah, it's definitely be using that in the future. It's also a good way to keep the color palette consistent. You know, if you worked on another book and then you're working on the second issue, you can just pick up that color palette. All right, so we're gonna wrap this up. Well, before we wrap up, LR, we see you finally joined us. Sorry, I heard there was 2 links floating around. So glad you finally found us. But we're about at the end. But you want to introduce yourself anyway, and what you do, what you're working on, plug your stuff. Unmute your mic.
Mic's muted, buddy.
Unmute your mic. At the red at the top, is your mic red at the top? Oh, we lost him. He clicked the wrong thing.
Oh no.
Oh no!
Oh, he's back.
Awesome.
There he goes.
You are back,
Can you
sir.
guys hear me now?
Yes,
Absolutely.
I hear you now.
Okay. No, I just wanted to learn from you guys and see what new stuff is coming out and stuff like that.
Okay, so you didn't miss anything because this is going to be on YouTube, so it's streaming live, and I'll put the link right now in the chat section so that everybody can you can direct people to this later.
How long does
Here's
it
the
take
chat
to
section.
kind
I
of?
lost it.
How long does it take to kind of like?
Okay, so the link's in the chat section now.
Yeah.
What? Who's
Oh,
talking?
Greg. Yeah. I was just wondering how long it takes from the time you end to the time it becomes a replayable video.
It says it takes a few minutes.
Oh wow. Huh.
Yeah, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna download it, edit it, and get rid of like slow parts, and then upload it again. So it'll still be at the same link. Yeah, but you better see it raw for just a small amount of time.
Good.
Okay, LR, introduce yourself, or you finished, or whatever. You just
No,
want
I'm good.
to hear what we're saying? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So then we're gonna wrap this up. Let's see if anybody has any final thoughts they'd like to share, or we'll just go, Greg.
Well, there will be new holiday pages up starting in September. HolidayComic.com, and it's really basically most of what I have to say is just it's very, very cool to see everybody's process and their ideas about the process, and it's very inspiring to talk to you guys and kind of catch your energy. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Greg and Scotty.
Geez, how do I top that? It's really, yeah. I mean, I always, it's tough because I'm always stuck working, or I'm usually working offline, so that way I can just concentrate more, or on other projects, and besides my own. I try not to miss any opportunities to connect with other creators and find out their process and trade ideas and just chit chat, and or if you need to complain, yes, my ears work, so I will absorb it in some way. I just never stop creating, and don't give up what you love to make. It's everybody. It's just great to see a lot of people they have their own different process. And remember, that's what makes you you.
Okay, thank you, Scotty. That was good. Okay, Wayne.
Closing thoughts. Everybody was pretty cool. I enjoyed doing this. In terms of comics, if you make comics and you're a cartoonist, just keep at it. I mean, it takes time for things to kind of work, and it gets discouraging sometimes, and it's easy to forget that other people go through the same things and have the same anxieties that you have, and that sort of stuff. So keep in mind that they do. Make things, be encouraging to people, right? Like, add things to the world. It doesn't hurt you to do that, right? And I think that it helps a lot more than you realize at the time. I don't know. I guess that's it. Greg's really cool. Scotty's awesome. Howard, you're pretty great. Lady from Outer Space, you laugh a lot. That's good. Not only that. LR, it would have been nice to see something from you, but thanks for stopping by. It's a good time. We'll do it again. Those are my thoughts.
Okay, great. Thank you, Wayne. And hopefully this won't be the last time. We'll have another Storytelling Sunday. Maybe we'll do this once a month. And so this way we get a variety of creators, on board and really exchange ideas and creative juices. Because I like to see, because what we do is not lonely, but it's very solitary. Because we're the only ones who can do it when we're sitting in front of the board or in front of the computer screen or in front of the Wacom tablet. So it's a very individual thing, but I mean, we can share, our creative energy and ideals, and also, just some of the few tips, that I've gotten through this. It's like, I'm gonna try that, so that's why this is such a good thing to do. So so I think we'll probably do this like once a month, and just keep it going, So because there were a lot more people who wanted to be involved, and so whatever happened, they got busy on Sunday, or they're watching a Firefly marathon or something. So we'll definitely keep this going. So a lot of links on the side. That's good too. Everybody's sharing the links and looking at the work. I didn't have a chance to last because I'm trying to moderate, so I didn't have a chance to look at everybody's thing. But from what I hear, everybody's really on point with the creative thing and how they approach stuff. So that was really inspiring to me. So you guys inspired me today. So definitely, I think this is a good thing. So I'll be editing it a little bit, and so you can see the raw stuff before I do that, but then after that it'll be available for the world to see. So thank you everybody for being involved. I definitely enjoyed it, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Thanks for setting it up, Howard.
Yeah,
thanks
a lot.
Howard.
I can't wait to see what everybody's going to make next. So
yeah.
Okay, everybody's been great.
Yeah, so now my plug, check me out on my blog, because I go through the whole creative process from how I see it, and also I get into technical stuff, from beginning to end. So, join me there, comment, because I'd just like to hear, keep you guys involved, and once we make a connection, just keep it going, not just this one time. All right?
Thank you.
Okay, take it easy. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Take care, guys.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, guys.
Good night.